I was like, I'm here.
Here.
Will Iverson,
Here.
Cindy Potter,
Here.
Dustin Hawkins. Jason Paul,
Here.
Jeff Bird. Jeremy Green. Michael Baker. Mike Levin.
Present. Present.
Any. Cardona,
Can you know? Here.
here. Steve Webb. Tim Gassner,
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Timothy Plummer,
Present.
Brent Titus.
Good
Good report.
Nice. Yeah, I got that. Thank you. Did we have a quorum? Okay, thank you. Sorry, I was distracted. Is there any public comments? Any public comments on Zoom? Is there anything on Zoom? Nope. Okay. All right, then we'll go ahead and move on to the regular agenda. Before we continue the regular agenda, I would like to bring up, Dr. Baker is resigning from his post from the Department of Public Health. He sent an email out to us. Some of us here that he'll also step down from his position on this committee. Stating that Trent, is Trent here?
He's not.
Trent and Stacy, if any have not met, this is Stacy Shaw, also with the Public Health, will be filling in for his spot. So, did we vote for Trent to take over that co-chair position?
Well, what we did, the committee voted to appoint Trent Titus as the vice chair while Baker was on leave or vacation. He was not here for an extended period of time.
So it was not a permanent, well, it was a temporary.
Based on my recollection, it was not.
It was temporary, why, because Dr. Baker was gone for like 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Correct, so he's gonna be gone, so now we'll have to readdress the idea of should we make him permanently vice chair in that spot or find somebody else? I want just to kind of, since it's not on the agenda, let's not vote on it today, but have that food for thought for the next meeting.
Well, is he gonna be here today?
Trent will not be here, so that's another reason, he's
Yeah,
not
we
here to
gotta
defend
trust
himself,
Trent.
which is actually when most people.
We're actually just why he's not here.
Yeah, huh.
So,
easier when they're not here.
Mayor LaPierre, just a quick reminder, the city council appoints people to this committee, one, and then the committee itself identifies who's the
Who the officer is.
officer.
Right,
Good.
so again, is everybody cool with that? Do, wait till the next meeting to railroad train in that spot? or-
Yeah. That works,
Okay.
unless Stacy wants it.
All right, then let's go ahead and move on to the first item on the agenda, the discussion of closure of Third and Oak campsite. Will, is that you?
Yes, that is me. So in discussions I've had with Tony and then internally with staff. And then with myself and walks with my dog.
That's pretty internal.
I felt that one of the suggestions that we have is closing the Third and Oak Street camp because it is in a right of way for a future road project that a developer is very interested in developing and encouraging folks to visit the shelter. The shelter has the bed space, and from what I'm told, and I'll introduce Dwayne here in just a minute, that there is space available. And the number of people that are sleeping or camping at Third and Oak, there is bed space available for them. So we think it would be a nice transition to be able to do that because it is taking staff time to manage that site, as well as it really isn't working to the capacity we were hoping it would work as a temporary spot for some people.
So if I recall, I went back to the April 20th May first agenda data. That as a result of the recent case law, the city is required to provide a reasonable amount of camping space for the homeless. And so we originally said we were gonna do that and Willow Creek, but Willow Creek's out. But by law, we have to have, or can they just sleep wherever they want, public spaces, that kind of stuff. So we do need to have a designated campsite.
That's not true.
Oh,
We have to be able to provide them with another place for them to stay. And the shelter is available for them to stay.
To maybe say it a little differently. If the city is going to regulate camping on public property. And set up regulations for those, we need to have a place for them to go. Before we had the shelter. We let them be in Willow Creek, right? And then when the shelter opened, we closed it. Now we reviewed it and we believe the shelter adequately fulfilled the spirit of law.
but there are folks out there that just can't handle a shelter. And is anybody, and I don't know, is anybody using a campsite up there?
Well, let me,
I only see 2, 3 tents at a time.
so let me introduce Dwayne. Dwayne is one of our new code enforcement folks that has been very much engaging the homeless. He has drafted what you see as a spreadsheet of the Oak Street camp numbers. So he has, I wanted to introduce Dwayne, let him talk a little bit about the count that he does. And then also his discussions that he's had with some of the folks that are there. Dwayne.
Thank you, sir. My name is Dwayne Ledford. And I go out here, I work with Marco. Marco's Friday, Saturday, well, Saturday, Sunday. I still do the visits Monday through Friday. The actual on-site visits around the town. And the numbers on the Oak Street campsite paper that I put each position around the table has them. So that's by date, the number of camps, or not even just a camp, that's the number of people in each site. The first one is, that's the actual inside the barriers themselves. That's how many people were there on each day. The number went from 1 to 3, and you can see the note there on 10-3. 2 came from the normal trailhead count. That's the Willow Creek trailhead, the bridge leading into Willow Creek Trail. 3 people from the numbers below, or 2 people from the numbers below moved over inside the barriers on that day.
Well,
And
this
then
is
a
a
couple,
legal place.
right, and then a couple days below, you see that number goes to 4 and it stays to 4.
It's
Because,
chilly.
is that why?
Oh, we'll see more because it gets colder.
But when you see more.
I would tend to believe that they've been convinced to use the legal campsite.
Which is good. They should.
And then you go down, the next one down below is Willow Creek Trailhead Bridge. Those numbers fluctuate because of the activities that are transpiring there overnight, whether they're coming in from the bus, from the reservation, or down the Willow Creek Trail itself, or the Lakes of Augustus access, or coming from behind the Safeway area.
And these people aren't legal, right?
They do not want to use the facility that's provided for them because of the things that they would rather participate in.
Right. They want to get high and use their drugs and drink.
They,
But
they're
this
the
area,
ones who are up all night.
yeah, party. But this area, according to the city, is it okay for them to stay there?
It is not
That's the
okay for
area they
them,
cleared up.
it is not okay for them to camp there, no.
No, good.
I believe that they're leaving the campsite, per my observation, and going over by the bridge in the morning. Do you confirm that, or?
I confirm that is not what's happening. Some of them do. So the 4 above, I wake them up around between 7 and 8, And they're up and they clean up, I give them trash bags, they clean everything up, and then they do go down there. But as soon as, so I go tent knocking and then I leave them while they start cleaning up out of the designated area, and I go straight down to the Willow Creek Trailhead. And that's where those numbers are 5, 7, 6, 4, 5. Those people are either just getting out of bed or they're under the bridge, they're in the grass. And sometimes they are still actively participating in
Drugs.
illegal activity.
And sleeping there.
I would expand it beyond drugs.
Yeah, there's plenty of extracurricular activity going on down there.
So
Got it,
that's
thank you.
not people from the camp, they've slept
These,
down there.
correct, the numbers that are counted here, they are not from the camp.
So. Do we let them know unless they're too high or that they're not supposed to camp there?
Yes,
Right, yes.
we move them out.
Yeah, they get moved every day.
Oh,
Hmm,
And yes,
so you guys
And then
move,
they
and
come
do they
back
actually
after
move?
leave.
Yes, they do.
yes,
Hey, thank you.
So clarifying question on the first block of numbers, is that the same person consecutively?
yes,
Different people?
the ones at the top, the 1, 1, 1, 3,
Yeah.
1, 4, 4, yes, they're the same people.
Do you have like a way to code the individuals?
Who they
So
are.
if we could get into some federal funding, and get some bat hide systems, and we could fingerprint and get their retina.
I could
Yeah.
give you their, I could give you their.
No, we don't need to do that.
I don't think we're pretty much because we, that's.
Well, we need to put the chip in them too, so they know where they are.
Chip is violating their private space.
Yes.
Yeah,
But the other
we kind
people-
of know who they are, but I can.
Like names, like do you have names, like do you?
Because in the health department.
Sure,
can
one
they-
of their names is Shorty, another one is Steve-O, but what's their
Oh,
God-given name or legal name?
But it would be nice if you get to know them, because then maybe we can start.
Well, but in all seriousness, they don't often give us their legal name.
Oh, I know,
Join
I
us,
know.
join us
I just meant
at
individual.
7 o'clock in the morning if you
Yeah.
want to, and ask them.
So then the bottom group of numbers is the best care lot, is the property next to the shelter behind Sonic.
What best Carolina?
It,
The empty lot.
it's up the roadway going in, I call it up the little bluff. Yeah, right
So
there,
you're looking
on the
at-
other side of our,
Across the street.
Yeah, if you're looking at the shelter, it's the hill to the right of it. To the
north, to the north of the shelter.
Behind
lot-
it, directly
Yeah,
behind.
it's property owned by Best Care.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You didn't?
what happened
Is
is
there
that
anything
they
on
were
there?
hanging out in front of
Yeah.
they were hanging out in front of the shelter, the street side.
Okay.
All day, and then they were sitting up on the wall, and that's city property, and so they can't be on the property while we're closed. So they moved across the street up to the empty lot, farms Best Care,
So,
and we know who that is.
so they can't be in the Third and Oak Street camp during the day,
Can't be where?
at the Third and Oak Street camp.
In the designated camp area.
Yeah,
Right,
and then,
during the
and then I understand that also, you guys, in the shelter, you guys don't want people loitering on your property during the days as well?
Unless they're receiving services, so on shower days, if we want a warming center that we're contemplating between 7 to 1, if we can have it staffed, they would be there, but if you're receiving services, yes, if you're not, we don't prefer that you loiter. If we're closed or there's not service.
And then, Dwayne, do we know if the Best Care lot, if they have allowed those people to stay, or is it trespassing?
I do not. I can't answer that in the
Well, let
Yes,
me ask
what's
the
Best
question
Care?
differently.
manager.
Dwayne or Chief Plummer, has Best Care issued trespass authority?
No.
No.
So, okay, I'll have to ask Heather.
didn't sound like Best
So when you say it's across the street,
So if you're going up our driveway, right at the corner where you're going up our driveway,
Before
if you
you-
were to pop up that little hill, the bank. There's land there, there's 4 parcels, at least one of them is Best Care. I don't know how many of them.
And it's got a tree there, and that's why they go there, cause it gives them shade.
And they're kind of out of sight,
Yeah.
most.
because they're up on the.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's also the bus stop for the Warm Springs bus.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So I've,
Oh, there's a bus stop part up
right there at the
there?
corner, right, that
That's part of
intersection,
bus care?
that isn't.
No,
no.
it's on the
But-
street.
Got
What's
it.
the big stop?
Perfect,
The
thank you.
Warm Springs bus stop.
I'll drive by there afterwards.
And it's all actually where Mosaic comes and brings their bus too. It's
Yeah.
right there.
So
Well,
we,
Mosaic, I thought goes into the,
No, Mosaic goes all the way up in front of where the sea crate is. Up the road.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they're not sleeping out there overnight. It's just they're hanging out there.
hanging up
during
there in
the
the
day.
day.
I have not ever got out there even at 5 in the morning and woken people up.
You haven't,
They've
nobody's up
been
there.
awake. They have, this weekend, I wasn't on this weekend, I was on this morning, but this weekend I caught a couple, putting up structures. Cause it was pretty chilly, but they had some tents and they had tents up and I did go up and
At the bus
take
care
it
lot,
down, but yes.
okay.
Oh. I never
So
thought-
that is, I've already talked to them and discussed, that's not gonna. They're not gonna how to do those things.
Yeah.
So, but I'll see them again in the morning, and it'll be
Yeah.
a little bit more
Yeah, I know, was it
emphasis put on.
Thursday night, it's gonna be 29, it's getting chillier.
So, and I talked to them all this morning, all, like, everywhere, all the locations throughout the sound. If they had, started planning for the cold weather and the freezes and things like that, and none of them. Not even one of them mentioned the church warming shelter, which we all know happens, but none of them have started. If they were, they weren't willing to share today. One person said behind, East Cascades. So,
You mean of Route 3?
I mean, all over the city today, nobody,
Oh.
none of them have a plan for the cold weather,
Oh, okay.
other than one person in East Cascades behind it, maybe.
It's also important to note that in July, in August, city staff started notifying these individuals that the cold weather was coming and that we needed to start working with them to find alternatives if they didn't want to camp during the cold weather. So we've been communicating this for several
Oh,
months.
I know, we hope for them to use the shelter.
Right, so Cindy, if you can clarify for the police chief and this group, if you want to allow them to remain there on best care property, or if they want to sign a no trespass order. So Dwayne, and the next code enforcement person will bring you on board here shortly, will have some clear direction on that property.
I will email Heather today. When I have a response, I'll have you. There's actually, no trespass.
Yeah.
Letter she needs to sign. Okay. Thank you.
Send us a document with letterhead and who's the authority. So they get to be the one to be technically the complainant will be required to come to court and testify if they ordered the no trespass.
She'll have to go to court.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, if she doesn't want anybody, if she doesn't want anybody trespassing, she has to go to court and ask for that.
If they plead not guilty.
Oh, no, oh,
If
okay.
it goes to court.
If it goes to
Yeah.
court, then Best Care would have to go over and say, we don't want 'em.
Yeah, we don't want them there. We,
okay.
yeah.
Will, is there any discussion towards the ordinance?
So, I gave the mayor, which isn't fair because he hasn't had a chance to review it yet. A sample ordinance that would change it to do exactly what I recommended is. Encourage closing the Third and Oak Street because it is a road right away. Letting those people know there's space at the shelter, and then if it turns out the shelter is full. And there are still people interested in wanting to camp, then we can reopen Third and Oak Street. But the numbers we see here today from Wayne, in my discussions with Tony, and please correct me if I'm wrong, there's ample space today. If it turns out in 6 months, there's not, then the ordinance clearly allows us to reopen that site.
If I could clarify, Gene and I were just huddling, probably depends, but maybe we would say there's an average of maybe 10 spaces They are primarily either in our women's dorm. Limited a number of men. The men's dorm usually is at least 75% capacity, and then we have a flex room of 3 beds that if we don't have disabled or mobility challenge, we can overflow or do things there. But that all taken together is probably an average of 10 spaces.
So
Yeah.
So how much,
the
Mostly women.
top two here, so the one that's in the authorized space. And then the one by the Willow Creek Trailhead, there's 3 males, the rest are females.
Yeah, that could probably be easily accommodated
Okay.
in the shelter.
so the 4 people that are staying up at Oak Street are, how many male or female?
Between those 2 places, because they take turns.
2 places, 3
Between Oak
males.
Street campsite
Mhm.
and the Willow Creek Trailhead, there's only 3 males, the rest of them are
Okay.
females.
And we would say that they can be accommodated at the shelter services center. Mhm.
So
Our
if anybody
highest
has
count-
any heartburn with that, please, speak now or forever hold your peace.
I have a little heartburn, but I also understand why.
So.
Cindy Potter, yes, why do I have heartburn?
No, not why, not why, I mean, we all have heartburn, I think.
I know,
because we
but-
have sympathy for the people, but
Yes,
you have things that you would like to be passed to the individuals in the situations they're in, you can talk to me anytime about.
hope they go to the shelter or they come to best care for help.
Okay, agree.
So does everybody understand that we're a low barrier shelter? You know what that means?
No barrier,
Low barrier.
low barrier.
That means.
So somebody could be high, but as long as they're
Behave.
nice, sweet and behave, they can stay there and pass out. and sleep.
They come in, they've been drinking, if they eat their dinner and go sleep it off, or just go sleep it off. That's fine, they just can't cause any problem.
Right, right. Oh, no, that's
And
not.
we've had to trespass people that.
Yeah.
I'm sure you
So
have.
the statement I made, perfect, was, and I don't know the names, as assuming they haven't been trespassed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you ever wanna know who has been trespassed, we have a list.
And we do communicate, I go in to
Oh, all
the
the time.
shelter and say, we all,
Warms up
No,
his coffee.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad you're helping out.
I got-
to be
I
able
got
to Do
one-
this, it's
One
huge.
thing to bring up is, I've been informed that there's a homeless camp forming behind Five Mart as.
yes, so that one, it kind of, I got another one that circulates minus the tents that are over closer to Southwest Adams. There are tents that are over, that tent doesn't ever move. The ones down in the northwest corner toward the grocery outlet side, they do go in and out of there, and that, those same 3 to 8 people. I say same, because they go from there to Fairgrounds.
Okay.
Around, and then back over to grocery outlet area and stuff. As a matter of fact, when we done here, I'm gonna go pick up some pallets and stuff down back there. Because some of the citizens that cleaned up and they don't know what to do with it, so I'm gonna go pick it up for them. But yes, that's. And there's a good bit of vegetation back there, so with the frost coming and whatnot, they're gonna try to get in those crawl spaces.
Well, I know that's privately owned back there, so, they have reached out to us about getting people trespassed from there, so, okay, I can bring paperwork for that,
Okay,
so
awesome.
we can get them trespassed out of there.
Yes.
So I had a question, someone asked, about a month ago, if we're seeing anybody build booby traps around. So you run into,
The closest thing I have
I hope.
myself with the booby trap is. Would be more of an alarm system for them. To let somebody in some type of a makeshift shelter know that somebody's coming. I haven't seen, I haven't come across anything that would be harmful to an inspector or investigator in that.
But we did discover Willow Creek, they do set up cameras. So they're not hard to come by, they work by Bluetooth off your phone, so.
Really?
Oh, yeah, they're
Oh,
not,
yeah.
they're cheap, they're easy to come by.
Like Amazon Prime.
Well, it's batteries there.
Yeah, they're battery powered, so they just.
Wow,
So
Yeah.
to think that they're without resources, that's not really the case.
no,
Okay, any further discussion on Third Street North?
So Mayor Lapine, one question I would have, anticipating that the city council may consider this amending the ordinance. How important would it be to have a recommendation from this committee to the city council on a particular action on closing the camp?
I mean, should they be aware?
Yeah, because they'll come up, they'll ask if this committee is aware of what your thoughts are on this.
Yeah.
Good point. So. Trent, welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you,
He
dude.
just snuck
All
in.
right. All right, my last meeting went a little bit over, apologize. That's okay. We know what that's. All right. Did you hear the train coming?
How about the bus?
I'll explain later.
So does someone want to make a motion to support this direction?
I'll make
Well, then, I'll make a motion that we recommend to the city council that they consider the revised ordinance to close 13th Street.
I'll second that. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Is there any opposed? Okay, thank you, Will. All right, I asked Nick to put on the agenda the discussion on transitioning homeless and related services needs, and basically what that meant was. When Dr. Baker and I talked about formulating this committee, we we're talking about the homeless that you see, which is where we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
And then the homeless you don't see, and those are the people that are generally transitional, or couch surfing and whatnot, and how can we connect them with services so they don't become the homeless that we do see? I know there's a question of, how do we find them? They're hidden somewhere, right? But I figured there's gotta be a way to, is there a way that we can advertise or put out service out there so we can connect those people to, fish them out somehow to. Make them aware of things so we can actually find, I'm thinking there's gotta be an easier way to find them, help them out, maybe they're not aware of something. Or. I'm looking for ideas here, and I'm glad you're here, Trent, because you're really good at finding people out of the weeds. Stacy's usually really good about connecting dots between grants and other things, and.
And we have the burn grant that Michelle, runs. And there's 4 or 5 peer mentors and case managers, and they do go out to the different camps and talk to them.
We're talking about people who, not necessarily at camps, but people that are homeless otherwise.
Right, sleeping on a couch.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's a way to keep, there's a way to track and find number, I guess if we,
It's hard.
I know it's hard to, I guess, to get exact data, but if we actually connect with these people and we know that, oh, okay, you're homeless, but we don't see you or somewhere. Any ideas, Trent?
We, meaning myself, Will, Nick, a couple of our officers, Dwayne has got involved in this, taking the opportunity to go visit some of our residents within the city limits. Discovered, like Jello, we started wrapping our arms around Willow Creek. We found our homeless people occupying tool sheds, other out structures from our most vulnerable elderly people who, some of which have never been outside of their house in more than a year. We don't even realize that these folks are occupying their space and completely devastating their property. So we have found those folks by way of code enforcement and are pointing and getting those people hooked up to some services in the community. So we may be reaching out to your group,
Yes, please
public
do.
health. We've been referring them to them. And lo and behold, Dwayne mentioned one of the folks' names that we found living inside an old RV on the property that I don't think the homeowner really realized that that's where they were. We found 4 people living in 2 different sheds on the property, so they've even installed their own locks on the buildings
Oh.
to keep people from going in and out of there and, so. We gotta, those are one way of doing it is that as you're out and about in the community, just pause for a moment and look past the fascia and go like, I wonder, if you have that moment of pause, what you're wondering about is probably really what's going on, because they went somewhere.
Yeah.
When I first got here, there was a point in time count, they estimate 150 people living in Willow Creek. By the time we moved them out of there, there was 6, so they went somewhere. And I think we're beginning to find them, and as the mayor pointed out, we don't see them anymore, but they're still there. And there's some house up on the corner of one of the intersections of B Street that looks like that has been abandoned and nobody's living in it. Well, technically living in it. I'm beginning to wonder, maybe a knock on the door there might be an idea about somebody that is living there that probably shouldn't be. So that's one recommendation I have as you're out making site visits and seeing these people at home. You might want to look around the property just past the front door, maybe a side of the building or back of the house to see what's staying there, because you probably will be surprised.
Are you requesting those people to move out of those sheds and RVs and?
Especially if the homeowner doesn't know that they're there, it's trespassing, and if they're plugged into their electricity, it's theft.
Oh,
So,
good. I mean,
yeah.
I'm just.
Yeah, we
Not to
definitely,
mention it's safe.
or let's
Oh,
say,
heck, yeah.
digging and trenching into their sewage and hooking up unauthorized sewage usage.
Oh,
So there's all kinds of opportunities for,
I know for some of the folks that we see, that are couch surfing, and we try to find them places to live.
those are the benign ones. Those are the ones you usually can't help. These
Yeah.
people are the more nefarious. And,
Yeah, the ones you're working.
yeah,
Keep sending them best care.
A lot of couch surfing people, in my experience, may not consider themselves homeless.
correct, yeah.
They have
That's the
the-
they have
difference. It's a
friends, they
mindset.
have-
They might live in somebody's yard, in their own RV, and consider themselves not homeless, while
Right.
somebody else living in an RV on their grandma's place consider themselves homeless.
Mhm.
So it's how they see themselves a lot, unless they're obviously,
Right.
trespassing.
There's a definition from HUD.
Which is
I- As I listened to the discussion, what I was trying to discern is there's a term precariously housed, and that's those that are couch surfing, doubling up families and individuals in houses. Those by HUD are not considered homeless, they're precariously housed. The type of situations that Chief Plummer was speaking to, those are homeless. If you're staying in places that are not fit for human habitation, you're maybe the invisible or out of sight homeless.
Right. But
You're still homeless.
Yeah.
By definition. So is this discussion item transitionally homeless? Are we talking about the latter?
I'm
Those
talking about those that are, what you call.
Precariously
Because as, you know, Dr. Baker and I, we were got this one conversation about why in that situation. Because in those situations, it could be something that like, okay, someone lost your job. Which could have really devastating effect on certain people's livelihood, right?
Mhm.
So is there a way to help them get re-educated or maybe put back in the pipeline? There might be some things they're not aware of that might be that could be a benefit or something you can look into.
Right.
So that's what I'm.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking at, because,
Sorry.
go ahead, no, go ahead.
So the mayor's right, because those folks are usually easier to work with.
Mhm.
Yes.
Because they're in that on the fence position, that it wouldn't take them much to get them to become long-term homeless, or it might not take them much at all.
Yeah.
In services to get them back up to where they want to go.
So, and to that point, so what strikes me is those are also the people who are more willing to accept the services or
Yes.
support.
Yeah, because like I said, a lot of ours that come in, they're either homeless living in a tent or abandoned RV somewhere, or, you know, they're staying with the relative and there's 14 of them living there and it's a 2-bedroom house. And so those are the ones a lot that we end up helping.
So we
And so we
do
send
have,
them our way.
we do have the resource cheat sheet or the kind of one pager brochure that we were handing out in the closing Willow Creek camp. We can make those available. The other thing that will be happening soon is our homelessness report will be identifying some recommendations somewhat related to this.
I like the cheat sheet you're talking about, and then maybe we can provide them out on those there. First responders, for example, so like our crews at the fire department or even law enforcement, if you come across somebody you feel might be in that target population, we can start giving those resources, I know that makes sense, that makes sense.
I know I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces on Tenth and Buff. In that house again,
Yes,
Where?
yes.
Tenth and Buff,
Somebody living there
a
or is that
lot of people were.
in a house or?
In a house, outside the house.
Oh.
And then, not to give away my hunting spots, but I was out past the dump out towards Foxes, and there's a lot, I don't know if you guys discussed this, but there's a lot of campers, trailers, motorhomes, accumulating out.
Yeah, I had that discussion with US Forest Service on BLM. The unfortunate part is because it's BLM property, the 14-day law is a federal law, and we can't enforce it. We can go out there and we can enforce, littering. And we have been out there and we have talked to them about it, and we've actually got some warrants out of some of those camps. But until the feds step up and actually do something about it, there's really not a whole lot we can do. And I think it's frustrating for the people in the community, because there are people in the community who go out there and use that. And I was at a meeting in Crooked River Ranch where a gal from the BLM office out of Prineville had talked about how they only have 3 BLM rangers for this whole area,
Oh my.
all of eastern Oregon, part of Washington, Idaho, and California. That's 3. That's an insane amount of area to cover. And so when we talk about our area, it's, they got bigger problems like China Hat and, Dirt World down in Deschutes County. We're small potatoes.
So the house that's 10th and Buff, you guys been there to tell them to leave, or how do you get them out of a house?
Again, we have to have a reason to go on the property. We also have to have, a reason to, if there's a violation.
Does
Right now,
anybody-
when you drive by, you can see, looks like a duck, talks like a duck, walks like a duck,
Yeah.
until you have that hard
Who
evidence.
owns it?
To, a nuisance violation or some other violation. Technically, we can't go on the property.
Any idea who owns it? Cause I bet they might not know.
It's in its county database.
Mayor, I would add to your list of couch surfing, maybe those who are living in hotels as well,
Yeah,
which is a vicious cycle. They can't afford to get into a house, because it might be that over 5,000. So they stay at a hotel, so now they're paying 3,000 a month for a hotel room, and they can't ever get caught up because of that.
Well, we have another issue that came up, and it was a voicemail, and I can play the voicemail. And I don't know if Chief Plummer got this voicemail, but HR Director Irby Dominguez with Brightwood Corporation called me and left me a voicemail. Do you leave me one?
No.
I'll play it just so you guys know exactly.
where's
what
he
it is.
from?
Right,
You heard it?
maybe something.
Hey, I wanted to kind of give you a heads up here, right, we are hiring a lot of migrants that we are bringing from other countries. I have a lot of, migrants that are from Venezuela, Nicaragua, El Salvador, and I plan to bring in maybe 150 of them. So they're gonna be living in the county, in the city, over. So we have apartments and houses rented all over. So I kind of wanted to give you a heads up about things for the season. So, if you'd like more information, please give me a call back. Phone number is 541.
So I tried calling back, you didn't hear me in the call, but when it comes to housing issues, you know, that just enhances, obviously, the issue. We've already had some other issues with domestic violence calls out in Culver, regarding this, group of people that are actually currently working at Brightwood. So,
Did you say 150?
150.
In Brightwood, is it, did I hear it is actually renting places? for
We're
them?
actually renting homes and apartments, and so that adds to our issue of trying to find stable homes for those that
I
live.
wonder why it's been so hard lately.
Mm.
Oh,
I have so many follow-up questions and I think I'll need to ask you like.
Oh, me too.
And I know they hire people from our shelter too. If they want a job, they'll hire them. Then they said that to us.
Are you finding that they do want to take a job?
We've had a couple guys work up there, but then they had some issues and we're no longer staying at the shelter.
Are you allowed to tell us the general vicinity of, let's say, a few blocks? Like if I were, you're looking at OD Meadows. Tell me where these houses are at.
Honestly, I don't even know. I
Okay.
mean,
I mean,
that's the information they gave us. And like I said, I tried to give them a call back to get some more clarifying information. The only,
Hope they'll call you back.
the home that we responded to for the domestic was, I think it was off Scenic Drive and so on.
Was that just last week?
Mhm.
That was massive.
Brightwood could be one of those places that those flyers at, the churches, pregnancy resource center, food banks. And get those flyers out to them. They can-
Yeah.
You-
I love it, the snap out.
You know how many other
Yes.
locations we went to from Ida, there's.
Actually, I think
a big problem with that.
The
the
pregnancy
two we
resource.
dealt with last week.
Yeah. Financial resource. VHS, SNAP.
That's what I
Hannah,
said,
yeah.
yeah.
Any bigger business. Kind of like what he's doing. Having them out there. Would be a good idea too, if they'd be willing to do that. Not sure exactly which ones besides Brightwood, but
Well, we've had, some of our people work at Safeway
yeah.
and some that work at McDonald's. So
We've,
we have
if
about
you just
2%.
email it to me, I can provide it with those slides.
We've hired a few at my shop at the end of town. U-Haul and the gun shop and stuff. They stay long enough to get 1 or 2 paychecks and they're gone.
And that's totally fair. I understand that, but at least, you know, it's information that's out there. I
Yeah,
mean, whether they keep it or not, it's up to them, but.
I would distinguish that crowd from our efforts, and I'll tell you why. Those folks are probably here if they're hiring them legally. You have to as an employer, they're here on a visa. And whatever, they're not who we're talking about in terms of the precariously housed. I believe that this is a separate group. If we were targeting efforts.
I agree with you, but
Yeah.
to the sheriff's point, they're also competing interests for the resources that we're trying to provide for those that are in the demographics you're talking
Yes.
about.
Yes.
And if you got a corporation that's actually funding their housing, which it sounds like, then that makes it even more difficult for the ones that we are trying to help that will probably remain here longer.
And it's furnished housing.
Yes,
He provides the furniture.
Yeah, I mean, they're not the renters of it, Brightwood rents them, and they obviously. If Brightwood's renting these properties, then the people that own these homes. Are definitely gonna let Brightwood do that because
sure,
they're.
guaranteed money.
As long as they don't destroy the property.
I can pretty much assume that I know the answer to this question, but is there a particular reason why they are hiring these people over people in the community? I'm
I
assuming,
can only assume they can't find local
Money.
help.
yeah, okay, I'm gonna figure.
Which one? Money
I mean, yeah.
They'll be-
Pay them less.
and labor? Yeah.
Labor,
A lot of
yeah.
people don't want to go to work.
No, that's
Yeah.
been a hardship all throughout. For,
But
yeah, almost every industry, I think.
Yeah, that's why you keep saying, no one of soundings all over the town.
So is what I'm hearing is they're saying you have, well, you have the bird, you have these funds and a resource, but generally the people at the camps are the ones that you're seeing going there. You're talking about the people who you can't find. Generally couch surfing that isn't identified under the HUD definition of homeless. So there's two different definitions that it sounds like our resources are going by. And then I don't see fan neighbor impact,
Right.
huh?
Right.
Right.
Or, the other well-known CYC's here, right? You're kind of.
Well, I was CIC, now I'm
Yeah,
with him.
because we also have the 1115 waiver with the
Yeah.
LHP benefits where housing is gonna start opening up.
November 1st.
Yes, it's a very
And-
limited
Yes,
pinpoint,
person. Fine.
place, but it's potentially the people that you're talking about, people who were once, you know, justice involved during incarceration, people in the foster care system. So there's, I mean, it just sounds like we maybe need to get some more people at the table that fan, and you mentioned fan, right?
COCC should be here. They offer free education for, we were talking about the people who lost their jobs or in a car accident,
Right.
et cetera. They offer that education piece to get them back in.
Yeah, and I do know there's a code for homelessness or houselessness that Pacific Source uses for OHP, but that's if they're coding correctly, and how are they defining that when they're coding? When I did the research for last year.
Yeah.
J. Not there.
Inspire me.
Oh. I'm like, trying not to, I mean, maybe that's here, but, I have a list if you guys have contacts.
I think the relevancy of where the mayor and Will may be going at on if there's some opportunity to focus is because this is the next batch. If something goes wrong, these
Yeah.
folks then become homeless. And so it's well known that if you can prevent somebody from becoming chronically homeless, you have a better chance.
Yes.
It was the,
Yeah,
it was a conversation that Dr. Baker had where the people that we've been talking about, we can offer them services, but unless they say, yeah, I want it, they're not gonna take advantage of it, right? I mean, and those are the people we've been dealing with since this committee's been together, but the ones that were, you're right, the ones that we're talking about. Otherwise, is we can connect them, we can keep them from becoming.
Right.
Those are the people we most are gonna have the best success rate stories and getting them to help. Because they're gonna be most likely be agreeable to accepting it.
mhm. Yeah, and so when the governor, the executive order funds came out, there were three goals. One goal was increasing shelter beds, but the two other goals was prevention. The number of households or individuals that could be prevented. And the number of households or individuals who could be rapidly rehoused. If they were, was that first time or recent homeless, I think, on the rapid
Right.
rehousing. And so I'm hearing maybe a desire to kind of focus there. The challenges that I see for our neck of the region is the low vacancy rates and the, you know,
Yeah,
okay, so
it's
we
just
get them
where-
in, we do assessments and
Right.
there's a new assessment coming down and Gene would be a point of being able to conduct the assessment, but the resources here in Jeffco are gonna be abysmally limited.
And it doesn't help after what the sheriff just mentioned about all those things.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's yes. I mean, you can help people if they're willing to, you know, participate in regional efforts, but we just have limitations on housing here in Jeffco.
there is a new
Yeah.
assessment coming out. We've been using a SPDAT, but it's going to move to heat in another month. So I haven't started doing the SPDAT because anybody just that with, once the heat comes out, you gotta do the heat too. So might as well wait that month. But, you know, we'd be willing to work together and even for our precarious house. If we could do a heat assessment on them, then they go into coordinated entry to the tri-county area. And then that way we open them up to all kinds of resources.
I feel like we pointed out some issues and that are some struggles that we're going to deal with on this.
Mhm.
But we put it on the radar.
Mhm.
So let's kind of continue that work towards that. we'll get that. I think a great start is just getting that flyer put together. And so we can put those in target spots and then give it to our first responders can have that in those certain cases that they may come across somebody who might be in that situation. I mean, EMS, we typically find people at the start, so.
You know, speaking of the food thing, like you were saying, the food pantry up there, you know, one thing, they give out free turkeys at Thanksgiving, and most food pantries do. And it comes through neighbor impact, and so they get just swarmed with people for that. I wonder, Nick, if we could just give them flyers, to put with each Thanksgiving box. It's gonna go out,
That would
to
be
get the
good.
word out, yeah.
Good point. So I'll put that. So I've got the food pantry, Brightwood, Pregnancy Resource Center. Law enforcement, sheriff and police department, fire and EMS. Is there any other agency?
DHS.
Yeah, SNAP office.
And you name it. Did you get it? Did you get all the ones you mentioned?
Yeah.
And we just,
I have
Bam.
a list.
Oh, public health.
Well, I have a list, I'll send.
Okay.
I mean,
With
the-
email.
You have some, Trent?
yeah, the hospital,
I'd like to
them
see
too
that.
will be,
Yeah.
Go ahead, Trent.
Last Thanksgiving, we put on, public health, we put on a Thanksgiving dinner at the church. And that drew in a lot of that population. The couch surfing, the ones I necessarily get to see out.
So include Trent.
I only have this much room on my.
Give you another page.
Maybe we could look into doing another dinner this year and getting an account that way.
Any other discussion on this?
I have one more question. What is the data in Jefferson County around aging in place? So people who end up having to move out of their house because it's deemed unsafe or it's unlivable. Do you have like Habitat for Humanity has projects going on in Northern Klamath, South Deschutes, not really Crook. But is there anything?
So I'm gonna go to the list, Jordan, Council on Aging / the
That sounds good.
community center, so I had to think of the right name.
and Nick, is this the flyer we created at the beginning? We may just want to reevaluate it, make sure it doesn't.
Yeah,
get updated.
it'll get a fresh.
Perfect.
Cool.
Is there any data? Is there any?
I'm not familiar with
conversation?
any.
and then thanks for bringing this. So right now, so you're serving lots of meals, aren't you?
Yeah, and our dinner onlys have kind of, if you look on the, new dinner only clients, you'll see that in August, those are new ones that had not come previous. And so we're really growing our dinner only program. They come in, they eat, and then they leave. And then you'll see the new overnight clients, the reason January and February look so high is because we just opened in January, so they were all new.
Well, it's cold.
And it's cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm assuming like our overnight stay numbers, see how it jumped in August?
That's because it was so
Because
hot.
it's so hot, right? And then it started to drop down, and I'm sure that once we
We're gonna
get
start,
cold, it's gonna spike up, especially if we do open up the warming shelter from 7 in the morning till 1 in the afternoon.
when are you hoping to do that?
In December, if we can get it staffed. We have to pick-
Yes, exactly, with it.
Yeah. And just to mention, we'll be trying to open up, hopefully by end of the month or next month, we'll be opening up our laundry lab program, which was one of our design, a load of laundry a week. That was one of the original design under personal care services banners with showers and haircuts. So we're looking to kind of get those stood up one at a time. So next month, hopefully should be laundry standing.
Is there anything else?
Just real question, so for September, or let's say August, you had 46 just eat, so really you had,
New ones.
New one.
No.
that
New
have never
ones.
been
you
there
had
before.
46 plus 21, you fed the 21, right? So you had 67 meals that night. What you're saying? Well, I'm just
Well,
looking,
on the 46, those are people who've never been to dinner before.
okay,
So there are 46 brand new people.
Yeah, if you're trying to work your way to how many people roughly are being fed, whether they stay there or not. I would say
There's
30,
this.
I would say 30,
Well, it says right here.
yeah, yeah, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a good crowd.
Yeah, you guys are serving a lot.
We
Yeah.
have,
And then, so you're no cooling center, you're only open from 6 p.m.
To 6:45,
to 6:45.
that's correct.
And so then I'm guessing, is Michelle still coming anymore?
Not,
Is that burn crap?
not at this point, yeah,
Okay, when did that end?
around the time the cooling center ended, around September.
So they're not going to there. Okay. Cause I'm wondering if it'd be a good time for a couple of our peer support people to come over at 6 and meet some of the folks while they're eating before
that's
they're
what we
gone.
said.
That's what we've
Have you
talked.
talked to
Or,
Michelle?
or they could come on Fridays, which are shower days, from 7 to 1 are shower days on
Okay,
Friday.
Fridays,
Yeah, and we're usually pretty busy all day,
you got shower days.
7 to 1.
7 to 1.
Additionally, when Dwayne is working with individuals in the mornings, we've got a bunch of people camping, Second Street pedestrian bridge. You know, making sure they've got aware of the resources.
Mhm.
And by the way, that's good. I'm gonna give you some criticism and a compliment here.
Please do.
You're not selling yourself because you took 3 people to rehab. And put 1 person in shelter. So I want this group to understand that you guys are making
Oh,
progress.
yes,
We need more of that.
yes,
You're capable of it,
yes,
but that's something to be celebrated.
right. Yes, we are, yeah, thank you. And that's why I wanna see if we can get our people, especially Fridays and a couple times a week. when
During the
eating.
evening, yeah.
We love that.
Yeah.
And on Wednesdays, I shift my hours on Wednesdays, so I'm there in the evening on Wednesdays. So Wednesday evening might be a good time anyway, because then I'm there too.
Okay,
And they know they have use of our offices if they need to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we've all
Meet
that
with clients,
yeah.
yeah.
Anybody else?
So to your point about space, if you look down here, you'll see that 63% of our clients are male, 37% are female. And that's why we have more female beds open.
Tony, just a quick question.
Yes,
This
sir.
data that you're collecting, does this transfer into is it the HMIS system that, state and also point in time count are using?
So
Or is it that kind of format?
yes, HMIS, this is our information that we track ourselves. Every day I do that, but, yes, every client goes into HMIS, even if the only thing we have is their name and the dates they stayed there. But we do an intake form where we gather more information and that goes into HMIS as well.
So that's important because as we come up, it's not that far away, the January point in time counts coming. 2.5, it's what, 3.5 months away. So that information can also help support and better clarify the actual homeless need in our community based on that database.
yes,
What's disappointing, I will use this term intentionally to me, is around PIT, is we've just yet not figured out how to do an effective PIT count in Jeff County. I'm gonna call it out.
we gotta. work on
We need to organize ourselves better as a community to do it. Because we're having much greater numbers of who are actually being served,
it. Mhm.
that it's just not being captured in PIT. So to Nick's
I mean,
point,
you said the right word, community.
yeah,
Yes,
For example, I think we can go back in time here for a moment. We used to have, oh, I just lost it. Neighborhood watch, right? But in a different way, we used it in the military, in foreign countries. We had village elders. Village elders were responsible for from 25 to 75 people. That was it. If they had one building that housed 75 folks, they were the village elder for that building. If it was a city block that has 75 folks in it, then you had a bit of village elder there. We would meet with these people on their ground. And we would discuss it, and we would talk to them, hey, what do you need? What do you have going on here? It takes a little while for them to get comfortable and warm up to you and understand that you are trying to help them is the wrong term. Because some of them, most of them don't believe they need help. They are pursuing their happiness. Whatever happiness that may be to them, they have the right to pursue it as long as it doesn't affect other people's pursuit of happiness. So community is the right thing. We're not, I think we're in a good place here for the moment. We have to figure out somehow how to scale it down and get individual smaller community neighborhoods involved. And care and want to, we're talking, people come in, they make complaints, right? Okay, did you talk to your neighbor or are you just complaining about them? You know, not so rude or curt to them, but trying to get them to understand, hey, we can all work this out. We're in it together, blah, 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 blah. So I think that's right.
Well, I would like to see more people involved in the pit camp, because last year Tony carried the entire thing on his shoulders. And it'd be nice if we had more people that would be willing to go out into the camps maybe and help with that. Cause he did a great event last year where he fed them lunch and invited them in, Best Care was there. And stuff, and it was a great event for that, but.
It was, they're gonna get
So
our,
so what we should do is make it more aware of the organizations trying to do pit counts, because the veterans groups were doing it also. We flew drones and we rode in airplanes counting overhead also.
Did you?
So if we didn't,
We need more coordination
we
than
need
that you're saying.
more awareness of organizations trying to get counts.
right, because then ultimately, they're gonna pull our shelter data, so that's represented, that's just pulled out of the system.
Yeah.
But that's only a fraction of what, of who is actually homeless. And here's the challenge, resource allocation is in part going to depend upon PIT. So if we're not
Right.
getting properly represented, it could, at some point, I'm not saying it would definitely do so, it could affect our ability to attract resources for our efforts.
There's a few of us, public
Yeah.
health should be involved in the pit stuff, cause.
Well, I will say that Trent and I talked last year, and we will build, I believe we'll build on that, but we need others
Yes.
as well. It can't,
We need to copy what Prineville did last year. There's a gal that runs a shelter there that really took the lead on it. And they made a much more aggressive effort into doing the count, and their numbers went up from like 25 or whatever to like 183
way up.
1 year. And not that there was more people, but they were able to gather that much more information.
Yes, that's a great example.
So she had a plan,
I can get a hold of her and ask her how she did it.
yeah, how she did it, that would be great.
Yeah.
Because we know our numbers out there, so just curious, the 46. Well, the 67 people that ate dinner at your place in August, were they all homeless?
Well,
and I
those
know
were
that-
just new clients for that month.
That's not how many ate there, that was brand new ones that.
Oh, okay, so then I am missing this.
Yeah.
Got it. So you don't count how many people eat there each night,
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
sure we
yeah,
do.
we do.
Yeah,
but it's not this,
no, see under meals served, this is
Yeah.
how many meals served we is served
yeah, which is,
in a month and how many average, and that includes our dinner onlys and the overnight
this
stays.
includes dinners only?
Yes.
Mm,
Okay.
Yeah.
That
And that's
makes-
breakfast, lunch,
Thank you,
yeah.
now this is it, thank you.
yeah,
Wow. That's,
And the reason we served
Amazing.
more in July and August and it dropped down in September is because we were running the cooling shelter and we were feeding them lunch at the cooling
Yeah.
shelter.
so look at
Yeah.
that.
Can we break out maybe? Either the stays or visits, whatever term you want to use. Either for cooling or warming shelter.
Yeah, we can start doing that for the warming.
Just so it's separate, you can also track that as well.
absolutely, we
Yeah.
can.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, no, the advantage of having Jean, and she's, I just attribute, she's done an excellent job, is we've got a much better handle on data now.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, as we look to, boy, it would be nice to have this better this time, as it relates to the shelter services center, we absolutely could.
And we have names for absolutely anybody that goes through this program for whatever, even if they just come in for a shower. We do gather.
Yeah,
All right, we all good?
Just want to report also, thank you to our partners at Faith Based Network, Best Care, and Public Health. We do have, I think, at least 20 surveys from homeless individuals. At our last meeting, we asked for surveys of actually houseless individuals and what were their reasons for being houseless, and what were their needs. We've got 20 complete surveys, so we forward those on to our consultants that are looking at that as well.
Good.
Spoiler alert, it's nothing new than what you already know. Unfortunately, there's no,
They need more data. I have all my intake forms. They need more data. I have all my intake forms as well.
okay, I'll let them know.
Thank you for sharing that, Nick.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Dwayne, welcome, thank you for your input.
Yes. Thanks for having me.
And, if nobody else has anything, let's go ahead and adjourn at 3:08. Thank you. Thank you.